So I did a chit chat get ready with me today, and I shared some more embarrassing stories, at least embarrassing and awkward stories to me, things that happened in my adolescence and even as recent as like 3 weeks ago. So it's always a fun time. These are just like little stories I like to share while getting ready, just to make it a little bit more lively, a little bit more fun, if you will. And if you like these videos, definitely leave it a big thumbs up and subscribe because it is free. Yeah, so welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Molly, and I do a bunch of videos from lifestyle to paranormal, fashion videos, and thrifting. So if you like any of that stuff, definitely this is the place for you. A safe place, if you will, a place of rainbows and butterflies. No, really, I just love to create content and share it with everyone that likes to enjoy it too. So yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so I'm gonna get started with my moisturizer and with the first story. So the first story is of my first date ever, and I was 16 years old. And it was like the springtime. I met this guy on a dating app called Hot or Not, which I don't know if some of you guys remember that app or not. I think it's still around, but it's not quite the same as it was back then in 2014. It was an exciting time in my life, you know. First date, I also got my first job, and wrapping up my sophomore year of school, I was getting ready to do behind the wheel so that I could eventually take my driver's test and get my license. Like, it was a good time. I had been talking to this guy. We FaceTimed once, and he had given me a few red flags, like orange flags. Remember when we FaceTimed, he was like, hey, by the way, like, I'm kind of doing this behind my parents' back because they don't want me to date. And I was like, oh, like, I hope that, like, it's okay that we're talking. And he's like, well, it is because they don't know. And I was like, okay, you know. And I just didn't really think much of it because I was like, well, he's a cute guy, like, I want to date him, so I'm not going to like say no to it. And he and I planned a date, and I remember I got all ready and I was like so excited. I texted him, I was like, hey, like, I'm ready whenever you are. And he went to a different school than I did, so he lived like a half-hour away, which like isn't that bad really, but maybe at the time it felt like it was a far away place. I'm like, maybe back then it just felt like it was a far enough place that he didn't want to like pick me up or something. But he didn't text me back until like 3 in the morning, so I sat there waiting for him, and he stood me up on our first like official planned date, which made me feel like dog poop because I was like, what the heck, like, did I do something wrong? And I only texted him twice. I said like, hey, I'm ready, and then the next time I was like, hey, are we still going? And then after that I was like, well, I'm not gonna over text him because I'm like, clearly we're not going on a date at this point because it's already getting too late. He was like, oh, sorry, I was with my friends, we were gambling. And I was like, you're 17, but okay. And so I was like, well, maybe we can like plan a different time then, you know, just trying to be like nice about it, you know, because I'm not like, if you're gonna hang out with your friends, like, that's completely fine. I'm not gonna be like, don't hang out with your friends, but just communication would have been nice. I'm deserving of that. After that, kind of flunked kind of like randomly one day. I had a half day at school because we got our yearbooks distributed, so we always had a half day when we got our yearbook. I don't know why my school did that, but they did, so that was cool. And my friends and I were just like bouncing around Target and things out, and he texted me and he was like, hey, do you want to hang out today? And I was like, sure. So I got home and I got ready. I remember exactly what I wore. And he picked me up, and my dad met him, and my dad was like really not impressed because he had already stood me up and my dad wasn't that happy about it. That was kind of like the stinky part, but I mean, my dad was nice to him, as nice as he could be. And my dad was really cool about like my sisters and I dating, but he was just like, I have to like meet them quick just to like make sure that like I know who you're going out with, you know, just as like a safety thing. Finally went on this date, and what I had planned was there's like a cute nature park down the road a little ways, and I like went there for Girl Scouts a couple years back. There's like the river and a cute little nature trail, a playground and stuff, so I was like, that would be like a cute little easy way to like get to know him, and like it's a neutral space. I feel like I'm pretty safe here. We were in the car. He was like, yeah, so do you want to like go sit in the back seat and we can cuddle? And I was like, no, I'm not really like that interested right now. I was like, maybe we can do it later. You know, I was just trying to push it off. I was like, that's kind of really awkward. Why would you just flat out like randomly say that? Whatever, I'm just gonna move on and give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just like nervous because I'm too. And he ended up getting me out of the car, and we were walking around. I felt like I was talking to a brick wall, and I'm not a huge talker. Like, I'm like an extroverted introvert. I definitely am introverted in the sense of like, I like to have my alone time and do things independently. I don't always have to be around people, and that's how I recharge, is just being alone. But on this date, I was like, clearly if he doesn't talk, then no one's gonna be really talking if I don't say anything. So I was trying to fill up like the awkward space, which I'm sure some of you know how that is. It came to like kind of the date part where we were like kind of like, I felt like it was getting towards the end of it, so we went for a walk towards the river. and he goes, can I try something? I was like, sure. And this is the awkward part of the date. So he put his arm around me and I was like, this is nice, wow. But if you're kind of like me, I feel like putting your arm around someone while walking just doesn't make sense. Like, it's kind of awkward to walk with your arms wrapped around each other. It just feels like you're trying to do something, like you're like a little twisted pretzel, and I don't understand it. So he then thought it was a good time to tickle me under my armpit. And this is when I was like, pump the brakes. What was that? My mind was like screaming. I'm like, what the frick was that? Because I'm very ticklish, so I was like, what? And then he did it again, and I was like, stop. And then he did it again, and I was like, okay, please stop. Like, I'm not really like comfortable. I'm like, what about me saying stop 3 times? Clearly you just like didn't go into your mind that I was wanting you to like not do this anymore. And then I was like, let's try something else. So I was like, let's hold hands because that's much more comfortable right now. And so we held hands, and he like literally ran in front of me with still me like behind him with our hands interlocked, and he's like, let's go run down to the river. I'm like, why are we running? Yeah, we ran down there, and he's like, let's kiss, and I was like, no. And so mainly just because I was like, this is just not how I thought it was gonna be, and I'm not really that impressed right now. Like, not that I didn't have a ton of expectations for him and like the date in particular, but I'm such like a hopeless romantic that I was like expecting it to be a lot more than it was. And so I'm like, I'm not giving you my first kiss. I was like, no sir, not today. So I was like, I'm not really feeling it right now. It's like, maybe we can do it later. I just kind of kept pushing it off, and he's like, oh, okay. And I was like, yep, bye. And he dropped me off back home, and our hug was like this, like a little pat on the back, and I was like, okay, bye buddy, see you later. Thanks for a date, if that was what it was. And that was my awkward first date story. There's a lot more that went behind it, but that's just kind of like a little rundown of it. It wasn't the best date, but it wasn't the worst date either. I feel like it could have been a lot worse in the sense of like just how things went. So moving on to story number 2, we're gonna rapid fire through these for no particular reason other than I feel like I sometimes overdo it with like all the extra added details. I'm like, okay sister, let's roll it back a little bit. So this one was literally like 2 weeks ago. You know, the embarrassing stories never stop as you age. I just feel like so many of them are adolescent, but then like once you're like 23, you're like, let's add some more to the mix because you deserve it. I was at TJ Maxx and I was checking out, and I like literally bought some little face masks and stuff to add to a friend's gift for her birthday, and then I bought like the little like face razors because I was like, I've seen these everywhere and I just want to like see what they're like, so I bought one for myself. So we're checking out, and they usually ask you like, oh, are you shopping with a TJ Maxx card today? And I was like, I usually just like say no, or like I'm just like, no thanks, like I'm not interested. You know, it's really easy to just say no, and as someone that doesn't like to say no, it's easy for me to say no to getting a credit card because I'm like, no thanks, like I just don't feel like it. She's like, are you shopping with your TJ Maxx card today? And I was like, I'm not old enough. Really Molly, you're 23 years old and you're not old enough for one. She doesn't know that I'm that age, but I was like, sister, yeah, you're not wearing makeup today, and yeah, you probably look like you're maybe 20, but I'm like, yeah, you don't look 17 anymore. Maybe to some people, but really, no. I feel like you look like you're in your 20s. So that made me laugh. I literally just like saw her face and I was like, crap. I mean, she's not gonna be like, yeah, right, but she was like, oh, okay. And I was like, you could have thought of 10 other things. Maybe no would have sufficed, but you went ahead and said, I'm not old enough. So that was my embarrassing story from like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. It's always a fun time. I'm going in with my Chloe, my icon, my Chloe Makeup Revolution palette. I had to buy it. It was a moment of weakness, a good weakness though. But back to another story. So this one, I was in 7th grade and it was my first year in choir because the year before I was actually in percussion, and that teacher was like really mean to me. That might actually be another story I can share with you. But halfway through the summer I was like, Mom, I had like a little bit of an anxiety attack. I was like, I can't do percussion again. This teacher like literally, I don't think I could go through another year of like knowing this man face to face. I just can't. I asked her if I could just do choir instead, so she called the school and they got me into choir. And what was really cool is like my teacher was actually my sister Sarah's friend's mom, so she knew who I was, and like it just felt like an immediate relief. She was so cool and really nice, and she's still a teacher there, which is so cool. It was my first year in choir, but I was familiar with choir because I did choir at my church, and then I also did like other like little choir like things when I was in elementary school, so it wasn't anything super new to me, but I was still super excited to be there and this opportunity to be in choir. It was like middle of the year and we were getting ready for our next choir concert. I think we did like 3 in a year, and so it came to like the spring one or something, and we were starting to like learn our new songs, and one of the songs, I think it was We Are the World by Michael Jackson, to like all the other people that sang, like Cyndi Lauper and everyone. That song has like 18 solos. I'm gonna be honest, I zoned out for a second and I just saw everyone get up out of their seats besides like 4 people, so I thought that we were getting off the risers and going in a line to like do a warm-up. So I got in line and I happened to be the first person in line. She goes, okay Molly, it's your turn to go first, like let's keep going. I was like, wait, what are we doing? And she goes, we're doing it auditions for the solo. And I was like, no. And I ran up into the risers and sat down, and I'm like, I can't. It's like that song from TikTok where he's like, I can't, and they're all like speaking gibberish. That's what it felt like in that one moment. I'm like, you guys are all speaking gibberish and I can't. James, get me out of here. She goes, what are you doing? She's like, get back down here, I know you can sing. And I'm like, sister, I was like, I am not singing in front of all these people. I can't. I have what you call stage fright. So I was like, I cannot do this right now. I'm sorry. So I ran up into the risers and I was like, please just go on with everyone else. I'm like, they're gonna be so much better than me. And she's like, okay. But she was like trying to get me to go back down there. I'm like, no. Did you not hear how uncomfortable I am? That was kind of embarrassing just because I felt like I made it a bigger deal than it was. But you know, it happens. It does happen. So it's fine. We're all here. We're all thriving and it's good. It's something to look back on and have fun at. Make fun of, I mean. The next story is a flashback to 6th grade, and I was in percussion, like I talked about, my terrifying time in percussion. So I actually really liked percussion. And so like this kind of makes me sad that I had such a bad time. It sucks because like the bad times I feel like outweighed the good times, just because like the teacher, he wasn't very nice. He's kind of a big bully, and I'm like, we're literally 12 and 11-year-olds and you're being mean to us. I'm like, and for what? Like, what do you get from that? What are you doing? He would like throw drumsticks at us if we like messed up, like full floors, like threw a drumstick, and it was usually like at the floor, but I'm like, you know, that could maybe fly up and hit someone in the head, so probably shouldn't do that anymore. You little quirky guy. I got the part of playing the gong, which is pretty cool, and I was really excited that I got that part to play. And I mean, it's a big part, but like it wasn't a super crazy, like it was literally a couple beats per measure. So I was like, I can do this, you know, and I felt like I had it down. The only way I could really practice at home was just like on my little practicing mat, or I was like, let's just get the counts down, and I felt like I had it. I've been playing piano. Like the way you could get into percussion when I was in middle school was you had to have 2 years of piano, and then you had to do like a piano test in front of him, and then you get in. So that's what I did. So I was like, okay, clearly I'm like okay enough to be in this in percussion. So I felt good, and when I got this part, it just made me feel like really accomplished, and I was like, okay, like I got this, like I'm so cool, like I got the not like I'm like I'm so cool. It was just more like, I can't believe I got that, like that is so awesome. It came to the point where we were practicing with the entire band, and percussion always practiced alone, and it was like every other day. We were in this huge like student center. It was after school practice, so we were practicing, and it came to the song with the gong. So I got lined up and I had my everything that I needed, and I was looking at the music and I started playing. Literally it was just like a 1 2 3 4 1 2, like that's literally what I remember it being like, but it could be something completely different. He goes, everybody stop, and he takes his utensil that he was using and he goes, you, and it's just like one of those moments in a movie where like the camera zooms in on my face, and I'm like and he goes, you messed up, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. And he goes, I don't want to hear it. You're supposed to know this. You're supposed to know this. And I was like, I'm really sorry. And he goes, I guess we have to start all over because of you. And I'm like, oh fuck. And I was like not a swearer, so like in my head I'm like, oh gosh, I'm messing up so bad. Like I was just so torn up about it inside my mind, and I was trying not to cry because I'm like, he literally just yelled at me, and I have a really bad problem with male authority. Like they make me want to cry every time they talk to me, so I'm like, please stop talking. Came to the point where we started all up again, and everyone was like staring at me, and I'm like, crap. Of course he had to yell at me and not just like selective, you know, like I feel like when you point out one person in particular, I think that's just like so rude. I guess I messed up again, which I didn't think I did, but I guess I did, according to him. And I'm not gonna fight him because he's our teacher. So clearly he knows the music. And he goes, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "You messed up again. What are you doing? Like, do you not know how to read?" Like, he was just like listing off all these really rude like little things, and he was yelling, like full volume yelling at me. Like, no one else literally was like, "Molly, are you kidding me?" Like, he was just so rude about it. I'd never seen him like be this way towards me in particular. Like, I was always very quiet and I always did my work, so I was so mind boggled. I was like, what is happening right now? Like, I want to just go crawl in a hole and cry forever. So then I asked one of my friends in the class, I was like, "Can you please just take over for me? I feel like you might be able to do it better than me." And I was like, "Can I just do your part instead?" And so I gave up and I gave it to him, and I was like, "Please." And he was like, "I'll do it." I'm gonna go in with my Bratz Yasmin plumping lip gloss. Like, look at this packaging, it's so perfect. Those are all my stories today. Kind of sad, I know. Some of them were like not that embarrassing, but when you look back on it, you're like, oh gosh, that was probably so terrifying in the moment, or just like so cringeworthy in the moment that you're like, oh gosh. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, definitely leave it a thumbs up. It helps my channel grow into a beautiful sunflower. Tune in for Wednesday, because I will try and get a Wednesday video up this week. I know it's been a while. I've been so crazy. July ended up being way busier than I thought it would. Wednesday uploads were just kind of hectic for me, so I just haven't done it for the past couple weeks, but I promise I'll be back. I have lots of Halloween content coming up soon. I know it's just August today, but we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get to Halloween and fall eventually. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Until then, shine bright.